Welcome to All Things LOCS, the show where we discuss everything related to leadership, operations, culture, and strategies for growth. Now, today we got a real special one for you guys. Let's call it what it is. In healthcare, leaders are constantly being asked to do more with less, talking less time, less staff, and less margin of error. And the truth is, honestly, most of the organizations out there, you guys aren't struggling because of bad care. You're struggling because of bad systems or, honestly, a lack of systems. And that's why today's conversation is one that every business owner and leader needs to hear. Because we're talking with two people who've built companies that run efficiently, scale sustainably, and yet they still make room for what matters most. So we're talking to Amanda and DJ Fornelli, who are business partners, spouses, and parents who've mastered the art of building systems that serve their business and their family. In fact, they've led over $27 million in real estate transactions. They've raised more than $6 million in private capital. And they've co-founded the Systems Academy, which is a program that helps entrepreneurs scale with clarity, structure, and automation so their business doesn't depend on constant hustle. How many of you would like that, right? So now what makes their story so powerful is their balance. They treat the business like a business, but never at the expense of their marriage or their kids, which is something that all entrepreneurs are struggling with. And that's something that every leader in healthcare or otherwise could learn from. So grab your coffee, get ready to take some notes, and let's talk about what it takes to really build a thriving business, lead with accountability, and still have a life outside of work. Let's get it going. Welcome to the show, guys. Glad you were able to finally make this happen. Really pumped and excited. And I really actually want to start with something that you had mentioned doesn't get really discussed enough, because we're going to obviously talk a ton about systems in business, but I want to start with a little bit about systems in life in regards to how to run a business the right way while being married, working with a spouse, having children, and making sure that we're focused on the business, but obviously making time to stay focused on the relationships that truly matter. So I really just want to start with, if you guys can just dive into that, what the importance of it is, how have you been able to actually do that, growing multiple businesses without sacrificing personal life?
Yeah, that's always a challenge, right? Trying to figure it out and trying to figure it out how we can do it and maintain our happiness. I have a couple of ideas. I think the biggest thing is, in addition to treating our business like a real business, because most people don't treat their business like a real business, we treat our marriage like a real business as well. So, what I mean by that is we have regularly scheduled financial meetings. We have regularly scheduled meetings where we go over our schedules to make sure that our calendars align for the week. We go over our childcare. We have a calendar where we chart out which childcare is coming which day at which time. Because if those things are covered, then the rest of the stuff becomes a little bit easier. Another thing that we do is outsource and automate, right? That's what we're taught as business owners, is to outsource the tasks that we don't like to do. So having people to help us clean our home, right? Help getting our groceries delivered, just delegating as much as possible in addition to having our regular meetings is really where I think we see some success.
Yeah, and people asked us, how did our personal life and systems influence our business? But in reality, the question was, how did our business influence our personal lives? Because we built businesses before we started a family. So this was at the forefront for us in 2022 when we started having kids. We're like, how can we create what we learned in business and in real estate and apply it to our personal lives? And so we've been able to integrate the two, I think, pretty well. And for that reason, we have created a system that I think has worked for us with two kids under 2 years old, and somehow we're making it work.
There you go. I actually love that a lot. I want to have a follow-up question on that because it's just so fascinating to hear different parents on the lessons that they learned getting into parenthood, that it almost unlocks a version of you that you would have never had unless you're a parent. Tell us a little bit about that and how that has impacted you as a business owner.
Whoa, dude.
A good one.
Get some. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, like just right off the bat, is sleep. Right. It's straight up.
All right. Well, yeah.
3 kids, you get 5-6 hours of sleep. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so wrecked. Like I need coffee, and now we're up every other night and we're still performing. So in some ways, being a parent has made us tougher. It's forged us and made us better business owners, because when ish is crazy with our kids and they're both screaming and they're both yelling and they're both running around, it gets us a little bit anxious and it gets us a little bit heightened. And so being able to keep our calm and keep our cool in those settings, I firmly believe transfers over to business. When shit is chaotic and it's a crazy day, and maybe I'm sorry, I cussed. When
Yeah,
stuff is
Ooh, no, it's all good. It's okay. Let it go. Yeah.
when stuff is chaotic, right, in business, and it feels like everything is against us and everything is overwhelming, those same moments of chaos happen, and we have to put ourselves in moments of clarity, right, where time slows down and we have to think accurately. We have to think, okay, what is really going on right now and how we can best handle this. I recently read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and he teaches military kind of principles, but for business owners. And so one thing he teaches is prioritize and execute. And so that's something that is the same with our children, and that's something that's also the same in our business as well.
I'm curious to know though. Sorry, Kara, for a quick second, dude. What actually enabled you to make that shift? So you went from, shit, I need more coffee, or I'm exhausted, and now you're looking at like situations the same, but I don't feel that way. So what actually enabled you to really make that transition to being in a different state of mind, so to speak?
Oh, a ton of self-work, I would say.
Yeah, I was gonna say self-awareness, mindfulness practices, right? I'm big on, it sounds cliche in our industry, but I'm big on a morning routine. I'm big on winning the day, right? And if we can win the morning, we can win the day. And I try to start off my day proactive instead of reactive so that I'm already easing into the day. And so those types of decisions are already made. They're already decided when I'm doing my meditation, when I'm setting up my morning. I'm letting myself know that, hey, I'm easing into the day, and whatever happens, it's going to be okay. Like, it's probably going to be, we feel like it's the worst thing in the world as business owners. In reality, it's probably going to be okay.
And one thing that we preach and we're constantly working on getting better at is equanimity. The ability to stay calm in a very stressful situation, whether personal, business, other. Working on that takes extreme self-awareness and practice. And by doing that, it's just going to improve not only our own mental health, but everyone surrounding us, especially our kids, right? So that carries over people we work with in our businesses. The equanimity is going to be something that we'll always work on because it's very difficult to be consistent with, but so much value in having.
So I want to kind of drive that a little bit further because it sounds like with the morning routine, with some of those rituals, like they really help you stay stable. So just for me, I also have I have 3 kids. My daughter's 4.5, and
Congrats.
I have twin sons that just turned 2 like last week.
Breathe.
So yeah, I know, right? So you said no sleep. I was like, yeah, of course. What is that? But there is a word. I'm going to throw out this word to you, and you let me know what you do, because I know you're in the thick of it. What you do, or what is in your mental health survival toolkit to help you get back to center, which is overstimulation. The word is overstimulation. When the kids are crying, when the phone is ringing, it's not a regular day. There's just some days where it's an absolute dumpster fire. And right. So there's the consistent rituals, but is there anything else that you kind of throw in there that you would tell other parents that are also running a business with a spouse of like, these are some things that really worked as a part of my like mental health survival toolkit?
Yeah. Her. And having each other.
Get a wife.
In moments of overstimulation, sometimes there's nothing we can do but take a break. Honestly, there's as much as the mindfulness practice as we practice, and as much as
perfect though.
we try to be good parents, sometimes we just need a break, man. And so how
just like lock the kids in a closet and walk away for your break, or tell me a little bit more about that. What do you do?
If he sees me and I look overstimulated and he's calm, he'll take over, and vice versa. That's the benefit of having a good partner, and that is also working on these things that we know when to acknowledge. Oh my gosh, this person's overstimulated. Like, let me step in and help out, or vice versa. We also are good at, I think, verbalizing when we feel overstimulated. Like, hey, I need some help. That's very, very helpful. And it sounds so cliche too, but like the breathing. And we even teach our 2-year-old daughter. We've taught her to verbalize when she's frustrated, and she does deep breathing. So that's something that we try to emulate for her, and it works for us too, just breathing in that moment. But it's constant work that over time you just get better at dealing with those tough situations.
The other thing too, guys, is we give each other, I give her time and she gives me my time too, right? And even if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't golf yet. I'm not a golfer, right? But I have my hobbies, and so on a Sunday she'll give me 4 hours to go with the boys and do my hobbies, and I make sure to give her time so she can go to Pilates and hang out with her girls. Because if we have that time to reconnect with ourselves, then again, that just helps in those moments of overstimulation.
And when we come back from those moments of soft work, we come back in a very great mood, like we've filled our cup again. So that scheduled alone time is very, very important.
Yeah, that's a huge aspect, you guys know, because I do find that there's a lot of hesitation with couples, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I do see a lot of the advice on social media is never get into business with your spouse or with family, especially, I mean, even my own parents, I mean, they had a business together, and it was tough in moments where you have a hard day, kind of like when Antonio described, and then you go home and you bring the work issues to home. So it's try to figure out how to create whether those boundaries or some personal time. And do you find that is the key to actually not just having a successful business and relationship, but having some boundaries, and then also knowing just where your strengths and weaknesses lie, where you guys can support each other in that fashion?
Yeah, I have a lot to say around that, because
Same.
I think many people would have a very hard time working with family, or let's just talk about spouses here, or with, in a couple. My philosophy is, as long as you're working on yourself, you're going to improve everyone around you. And we're constantly working on ourselves. Furthermore, if you figure out how to work with your spouse, that is the most powerful, indestructible relationship you can ever have from a business perspective, because you already align on so many things as a couple. But if you apply that to business and you do it well and you've unlocked that, it is extremely powerful and difficult to match.
Yeah, I second all of that. The other thing is you can't force anybody to do something they don't want to do. And thankfully, my wife and I have started businesses together. So we were on the same playing field together. It wasn't like I had all of this knowledge and I was trying to bring her up along with the journey. Her and I were on the journey together. So in that sense, there wasn't an imbalance in the power dynamic, right? It wasn't like one person had an upper hand on the other. It was like, hey, it's not I or me, it's we. We always say that, right? We're in business together, but if she gets a speaking opportunity, I'm her biggest cheerleader, because I know that it's not I, it's we, right? And so for the people that have a hard time bringing their spouse aboard, I talked to some of those people too, and I'm like, how are you going to realistically explain 3 years of or 4 years of YouTube, podcasts, conferences, education in 5 minutes to your spouse and get them on board? Like, that's almost an impossible task. But if I can meet my spouse in what she's interested in, and I can make it seem like it's a good idea, like she's coming up with the idea that it's a good idea for her to get in the business, if I want her in the business, that's what I like to encourage people to do. Figure out what your spouse likes, right? It may not be everything about real estate, but I'm sure they might like some aspect of the business that you can expose them to. And then hopefully they're willing to get exposed to a little more and a little more and a little more.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you too, especially when you're coaching companies or when you're building companies, and when it's someone's like first beer, it's their first time, ever doing it. How much do you lean into books and outside literature? You mentioned like YouTube videos and everything else, but in working with a partner for the first time, but specifically a spouse for the first time, what are some things that helped align you two, where it's not just talking, with each other, but it's like going to an outside third party resource that it helped align you guys get on the same page?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I'll start and then you can chime in. But
Yes.
when it comes to aligning our goals as a as partners who are also spouses, obviously want to get educated and all the things along the way, but attending those impactful events together and experiencing the same emotions together is so important. How can I go to a 3-week conference for business or real estate and I'm like, I leave there with just my mind completely blown? And how do I adequately convey that experience to him if he's not there? Attend these events together, experience these mentorships together, whatever it is, because that emotion is very difficult to translate to, right? That's one thing. And we're huge advocates of their traditional therapy too, or coaches who help coach. There are people out there who specialize in coaching spouses who are business partners, but even couples therapy, any way that you can improve the relationship, whether it's a traditional or non-conventional way, it's going to help you align your vision and try to minimize any discord along the way.
Yeah, we see it like a mindset trainer, right? Like
Yeah.
you can be super fit and still hire a personal trainer and increase your body composition. There's no perfect type of body composition. And so we see the same for our marriage. We have a fantastic marriage. We love each other. We're not perfect by any means, but just because we're not constantly arguing and fighting doesn't mean we can't benefit from a professional like a therapist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. One thing you said, which I loved, Amanda, which was, being in the same rooms together. So you guys experience the same emotion, you're witnessing the same thing, and it helps you guys align. Recently, I saw that you guys made a decision to sell a few of your Airbnbs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And so when there's like outside market conditions, things that are going to be impacting the business, and you're like, this spouse feels one way and the other spouse feels another way, even if you're experiencing the same thing, like we should sell, we should keep, we should pivot in another way. What's that conversation like when you guys go through that process?
Yeah, because we've had a lot of the same training, I feel like we approach it the same way. And so one of our mentors is super big on stimulus and response. It's kind of like basic sales, right? The response that we want can be determined by the stimulus we put out. So if I roll up to Amanda and I'm like, we need to sell our Airbnb, that's not going to hit as if the same as if I'm like, hey, have you looked into the financials of our Airbnbs? Have you ran some comps? Right. So right away, my approach and how I start off can set the tone for a successful conversation or an unsuccessful conversation. And full transparency, she checked me about 3 years ago, and
Like
she told
3 minutes ago. It was like, you speak, and then I'll get it going, and then you can come in. Yeah, I remember that. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
She said something so brilliant, brothers. She was like, hey, would you talk to your boss that way? Right. We were we were in a tense conversation and I was getting attitudey. And she said, would you talk
About
to your
business. It was
about business? And she said, would you talk to your boss that way?
or your coworker.
Your coworkers? And I said, no. And she said, why are you talking to me that way? And I think we forget, because I have such a good relationship with her, all those walls are down. We forget, right? And she was absolutely right. I would never talk to a boss the way that I talk to my spouse. So why am I talking to my spouse this way?
And let's be clear, we've had a lot of disagreements about business decisions, and sometimes we hash it out and, like in a passionate way, right? But what we're also learning, and it's something we're getting better at, is trusting each other's decisions and allowing each other to make mistakes and being okay with that and just moving on from it and accepting it for what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, that's you're obviously talking about each other as a couple, but to your point, just business partners in general, right? It's the goal is to not talk to each other like crap. It's to understand how to, communicate the right way, how to connect. And honestly, it is interesting that you said that, because I have had the same thing with my own wife. I'm like, why do I talk to you like I wouldn't talk to anybody else that I work with? So it's really getting aligned on the same page as to what's the proper way to communicate. And, also understanding, and you made a good point there, DJ, is about just, am I making this decision based out of emotion, or am I going to use some information here to help me steer this in the right way? Because I do think that's something we, even we encounter with some business owners where it's, I want to make I want to do it this way, or I want to stick to my guns, and it's just based on pure emotion, right? Maybe I don't want to sell the property, or the property is worth $1 million when it's only worth really 600,000, but it's just emotion that's driving it up. So it's definitely something that it's great. I'm glad you brought that up about just making decisions based on the data and what the numbers are actually telling you. So the market is shifting. It's all right, what do we have to do to get ahead of it versus, all right, it's already too late and now we're kind of screwed.
Yeah, that becomes hard, dudes, because we put so much time, energy, money, effort into these businesses. So of course there's an emotional component to it. And in reality, when I link up with super successful people, 9, 10 figure people, when we pay again these masterminds, right? Like they see things a little bit differently and they're like, it's really not that big of a deal, right?
Yeah, and that just comes with experience, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had to make some very hard decisions as a team in the last year regarding our portfolio. So that's super top of mind right now. And it brings it back to the question about selling the Airbnbs. We went back and forth for a while before we finally decided it was time.
What would you say actually enabled you to finally make that decision? And I just kind of bring that up too because we're also working not with just business people, but in healthcare, where there's a lot of trend is not great for a lot of those businesses. So do I sell the private equity? Do I try to ride this out, build a business? How do I kind of know which way to go? So what was sort of the nail in the coffin that just for you guys was like, all right, we're doing this, and that's what's enabling us to make that call?
Yeah.
I think you'd agree when I say the most important thing for us is the opportunity cost. What can we be doing with this amount of time and energy and even money? And can we generate a better ROI with this by getting rid of this portfolio or this property? And if the answer is like, yes, we can generate more, then absolutely, like, let's move on from it.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that, I think people keep assets or buy assets for the wrong reasons sometimes. Maybe it's a vanity reason, right? Everyone loves to say their number of doors. And so some people are so quick to just increase the door count that maybe you purchased the asset wrong. And so looking at it as a business decision and not just our immediate the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, but project out 5 years from now, 10 years from now, which is easier to do than ever before, thanks to AI tools and ChatGPT and all of that. So removing the emotion, removing the vanity, removing the ego out of it, and looking at the data to see what's the best business decision, that helps us make hard decisions.
I like to switch gears over into operations because that's kind of, I feel like personally, that is one of the areas that a lot of business, because you mentioned vanity, you mentioned, basically like a little bit of ego. People are looking at partaking into something or getting into something with a lens that could actually be troublesome. And how they're elevating a business, but they're not appreciating operations, right? So I want to dive into that, and I want to start with something very basic, which is when someone says, I need to make my operations better, what do you think of and how do you kind of coach them through what operations could look like in their business?
First is to ask them what do their operations look like now, to get a snapshot of what they're doing now. And that's, for us, it starts with organization. How organized are you? What does your back end look like? Do you have a clearly laid out marketing department? Do you have a clearly laid out acquisitions department? Is there a clear dispositions department? Within those departments, do you have clearly laid out roles and responsibilities, right? Like literally, what does your back end look like? Do you have an efficient way of organizing everything? Does everyone in your team know where there's organized? So really, it would just be a bunch of questions, right? Getting as much information as we can to see how they actually operate. Because what we find, not the case with these gentlemen, what we find is most people own a job. They don't have a true business. And so by that, I mean, they're working in their business, still trading their time for money instead of looking out how can we really build out processes, and then how can we leverage these processes to then outsource and automate, right? So I would just ask questions like, what does your back end look like, right?
And most people do not have anything documented.
Mm-hmm.
And if, in my mind, if it's not documented, it doesn't exist because it won't pass the pass down test. If you were to pass down this business to your family tomorrow, would they hate you for it because you gave them an absolute mess? Or are they going to see that it's a well-documented, organized business that they can plug and play? That's really what you have to ask yourself. And if there's nothing written down and everything's in your head, in my mind, it just doesn't even exist.
So where's your point of entry? From what you said a little bit earlier, it sounds like it's org chart first. Like, show me the org chart. What is everybody doing? Do they know it? And then you build out from there. Is that your point, or is that your entry point, or is it maybe someplace else?
Yeah. So the way that we actually teach something called the Lean framework. It's laying the foundation, which is organization, your department's roles and responsibility, creating your back office systems. We teach E, which is establishing the processes. That's establishing your SOPs, your checklists, creating your SOP, your master SOP directory. When you've gotten that part done, then you move to the next step, which is you're automating and delegating. You're creating systems, you're creating efficiencies through technology by automating, or you're creating your SOPs to be able to outsource and hire. And lastly is N, which is nurture, and that's nurture and optimize. And that's what are your KPIs? How are you looking at your business from a 30,000 foot view and making it better? Where are there bottlenecks? Where else can you eliminate inefficiencies? That's the way that we look at it. You want to add to that?
Yeah, and what we've done is we've taken that framework and we've created an assessment, and we call it the system scorecard. And it's 10 areas in your business.
Do we lose sound here?
I think we froze.
No, you're good. We're 10 areas in your system.
Fellas, can you still hear us?
Oh, we're back.
Yeah, 10 areas in your system, right? That's where you left off.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I froze for a second, guys.
So there's 10 questions that we ask. Each question has 5 answers. And the answer is basically, I do it all myself. That's the top line, level answer A. And then answer E is, I have this fully systematized and automated. And that gives us a snapshot. So as long as someone's accurate with us and fills that out, we know, oh, okay, they're still doing a lot of technician work. They're still doing a lot of basic work on the marketing. But when it comes to dispositions, they're running full vision and strategy. So clearly we need to take a look at your marketing department and see which processes we can build to outsource those. So the system scorecard was super helpful just to get like a real-time snapshot of where people are in their business right now.
Tell us a little bit more about that framework. Is that something that's specific for real estate, or can anybody use it?
The cool thing is it applies to most businesses. Like we've taught realtors, which is still real estate, contractors, which is kind of real estate. Our friend who's an insurance agent follows the same framework. And then our really good friend is actually a very powerful, intuitive psychic medium. And she's kind of building out a coaching business. And she uses the exact same framework.
Yeah, we teach concepts, which can be applied to any business. So we don't really teach, we use real estate specific examples, but we teach concepts which are applicable to almost any industry.
Yeah, that's what's interesting. We're doing the same thing. Obviously, it's healthcare, and it's just everybody wants to treat every industry as very different, right? Like you don't understand what this industry does. It's like it's all very similar, right? It's like you need to have the right systems in place, and then what we find is that, and I'm curious to know if you guys see the same thing, that's just that people want to build a business and get just to a certain threshold of, hey, when I'm making $5 million or whatever it may be, when I'm making $1 million, then I'll start putting some systems together. Whereas, right, and your guys are like, no, that's not the right way to do it at all. So versus like, when is the appropriate time for somebody to actually sit down and figure all this important aspect of the business out?
Speaking from people who had to retroactively implement systems, it is very difficult to do so. I mean, there's value in obviously knowing what the process is, having done it several times already. It's more difficult to retroactively apply systems to a business that you've had and then document SOPs and teach everyone. What would be the power of implementing systems and creating this process from the very start of your business? It will just create a much better flow so that when you're ready to grow your team, you just plug and play, and it's so much less, I think, just less friction in general.
That's how it would work ideally. And in an ideal world, everybody would be like that. But we know how hard business is, right? You can look at census data and we know that 80% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. We know that the average business owner in the United States makes between $75,000 and like $125,000 a year, right? And so it's almost like putting the cart before the horse, because like we were talking about earlier with bringing your spouse on board, how do you bring business owners on board with establishing systems and processes if they don't know what establishing systems and processes actually does for their business, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can take someone who's brand new and we can tell them about CRMs and automations and triggers and lead management and pipeline management, but it's like Chinese to them. And you have to kind of go through the reps and do business and actually get in the ring and start taking punches and do boring stuff over and over and over again to know that I got to outsource this, you know?
So Dan and I actually had a call a little bit earlier today with the doctor out in Bellevue, and that was kind of one of the things too. We just asked, like, is this something that you're looking to, activate now, or is this something that you're kind of researching to do down the road? And they were like kind of thinking Q1, Q2, or something like that, and we're like, no. It was just to help us kind of understand like where their mindset was. They're like, oh yeah, all this dumpster fire of things and this chaos that I'm in, I could withstand that for a few months and then do it when I'm supposed to double my business. And you're like, no, that is like, you want to do it now. So it really is an indicator of where they are at mentally, of how much they know and appreciate. Like, if you do this, you're that say, like, you're set up for life, but like, you are set up to really scale or really grow your business ethically, more responsibly, quicker, easier, faster, just by doing some groundwork on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. All of it is on the front end, but it's going to save you so much time down the road.
Yeah, but again, it's hard to
Yeah.
show people that unless they haven't done it, right? We tell people about the Eisenhower decision matrix and how there are a lot of tasks that are very important but not urgent. So we push those off to the side and we encourage people to schedule their quadrant 2 time to work on those tasks. And maybe 1 out of every 10 people will take that and run with it. 9 out of 10 just flies right over it.
So imagine if for the next like 10 seconds, this podcast is going to infiltrate every single cell phone, every single computer, every single TV across America for entrepreneurs specifically. And you have this to say about operations, where you're like, just get it together. Like, if you're just blunt of what it actually does to them and their business, like, what would you say to them?
Oh gosh.
No pressure, but what would you say?
Yeah, bro, come on.
Like, just reach through the screen and just punch him in the nose.
Yeah, just shake them.
Oh,
Do this shit. If you want to separate yourself and give yourself a fighting chance at being a part of that 20% of business owners that actually make it, you need to focus on systems and operations. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
But DJ, I wanna just be in sales.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point, right? Is that most people, I think, just say, I need to make more money and I need more sales, so we'll work on that stuff down the road. What would you say, like, really the major goal of creating the systems and the right operations in the very beginning?
To compress time and to stop wasting your time. By having to reinvent no systems means no predictability, right? If you don't have predictability, you're constantly reinventing the wheel. It's just a waste of time. It's literally a waste of time. And the hard part is the long-term impact, because we may start off with all the motivation and inspiration that gets us to year 1, year 2. By the end of year 3, if you're not starting to implement some of these practices, you lose that motivation. You become a worse entrepreneur. You become a worse business.
Those 80-hour per week are going to really wear you out.
You start to retract. It's literally unhealthy for your body. And when people do that, their business crumbles, and that's when it starts to fail.
So how much of this do you guys think is just due to straight up ignorance, right? Like, I don't know.
They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, right. So I'm curious on when you're talking to people, they're just like, I don't even know what business operations is. Like you said, it's Chinese. Like, what does that mean? And if I don't understand it, why would I do it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's ignorance, man, because I don't know what you guys find, but from the people that we talk to, sometimes I talk to somebody and they're like, oh, I'm in this program and I'm in this program and I know everything about MTRs and STRs and I'm going to do co-living. And it's like, how many deals have you done? Oh, I'm still waiting to get my first one done. So I actually think there's so much education out there, and maybe it's not ignorance, it's just your own mind.
So do you think
Dan,
it's
you wrote,
more, like I said, do you think it's more the concept of knowledge consumption without taking the right appropriate action?
yeah, because
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not taking action.
people know what to do. I think you can listen to podcasts, you can go onto YouTube, you can buy someone's course, and you know what to do. Executing on that is the challenging part. And Dan, you wrote the book I'm the Problem, right? Like, people get in their brain and they let limiting beliefs take over, and they think it's going to take them much longer than it actually does. And what we've learned, all of us, by doing this so much, is if we can decrease the time from idea to implementation, we're going to be more successful and make more money. But if you don't constantly practice that, you're going to think that you need a lot more time to do something than you really do.
You know, got it.
Yeah. I think people do know that business operations, systems, processes is very, very important. I just sometimes they don't know what to do, right? Literally, people have told us, I don't even know where to start. But that is a crappy excuse because you have access to so much information in this world. We actually help people, like we hold their hand, literally go do steps 1 through 10. People have access to this. All you have to do is go and do it. And people don't even do that. So one, if they do know about it, they're just not taking action. But the people that do, they understand the value right away when they implement it.
You know, it's funny. You're making me think of this a chiropractor I interviewed a while back, and I remember my boss at the time. He gives me the guy's resume, and he's like, "Tell me what you see that sticks out." And I'm not even shitting you. The guy had written, I think it was like his book list, and it was like, which is very interesting to put on your resume, but it was like 40 books deep. And I read, and I was like, why is he coming in for an entry level, like a staff position, and not trying to open up his own practice or something like that? Like, so to your guys' point, it's like, I look at all this knowledge I'm consuming is basically what he was saying, but then look at all the lack of action I'm actually taking based on what I'm learning.
How much of it do you think could be, you know, it's almost like that Netflix syndrome. Like we're in a very different age now where there's so many different diets, there's so many different ways to do different things. And with business, especially when you, with at least what we've come across, and just even for myself too, is people start their business with passion. They're fired up. It's very relational sales. There's revenue that's coming in, and it's almost like trying to wrangle in like a headless chicken. It's like a multi-million-dollar headless chicken. And sometimes what I notice is, you know, the business owner it's like, I know I know I should do it. I know operations is a thing. I know, but there's just, what if I do this Grant Cardone method of 10x scaling and I actually make a mistake and I actually really take a step backwards? Or if I do this other thing, like which one should I actually do? And then it ends up being this almost procrastination thing where they don't know what direction to go, which one applies to them. Because it is very different a bit in healthcare if you're running something that's based on insurance versus like, you know, if you're having like a marketing agency, it's like, it's a little different, or a construction company. So I wonder how much in your experience do you feel like it is them like, there's just so much out there, I literally don't know where to begin, and I don't want to make a mistake because I have employees and I have my own family.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot over the last 2 years, and we're pretty transparent. I think you start off all the motivation, inspiration, you say, I know what to do. But I think for some folks, you reach a certain point in your entrepreneur journey where you're either going to continue to be a better entrepreneur or it's overwhelming to become a poor entrepreneur. And I think that individuals like us who are constantly educating themselves, are working on personal development, are taking a look at their real issues, trying to be a real leader, they're going to continue to be able to push past those things, whereas somebody who is developing more poor practice might say, I know I need to do this, I know I need to do that, and just not do it and kind of give up, right? Because it's so challenging that maybe they just lose that motivation, they lose that drive, and that's when things start to crumble and they jump back in maybe when it's too late.
I think you have to go into it knowing that there is a possibility of failure, losing money, getting sued, all the things, right? And you have to do it anyway. And there's data that shows, again, going back to the data, that with every iteration of business that an entrepreneur goes through, their chance of success goes up a lot more. So maybe their first business, they failed a 20% chance, but maybe by the second business, they have a 50% chance. By the time they run a third business, 80% chance of success. So you're literally getting in the reps and you're learning from all those failures, lessons, whatever, those mistakes, and you're improving your business and just creating better practices all around.
What do being that you guys are, in the real estate industry, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot I feel predicated on being successful now, having, good deals, building a business, but also what's next for us? Like, what's the next project, right? What's the next investment? And, we find that that's something very challenging for a lot of business owners to be able to look forward while still staying present. So, for that business owner saying, all right, I'm getting all this stuff together, I'm getting my systems, but how do I also maybe get ahead of it and look forward to 6 months down the road or a year down the road? How do you guys focus on the long term while staying really grounded and present on building the business in the present time?
You have to look forward. That's what we teach, because how do you create a system or a team around a goal that is undefined? So one of the first things we teach is, okay, we do what's called your smart REI goals. How many properties do you want in the next year, in the next 5 years? Take that number, reverse calculate how many leads you need to process to get in your business, create the systems around that. How many team members do you need? That goal, that forward-looking number is what's going to define how you create your whole business. There's no multi-million or even billion-dollar business that does not have their goals defined for the next year, 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, and revisiting those goals regularly, revisiting the system scorecard regularly and building a system around that is really helpful to chart our success. Like, this is our report card. We treat the system scorecard as our report card, and we can track how much better we're doing, because we take the results of the system scorecard and then you're lumped into certain categories, right? Like technician work all the way to visionary and owner. I think the other thing along those lines is we don't celebrate our wins enough. And for us, right, we're so freaking ambitious. We have all of these goals that we want to hit, and we hit a lot of them. But because we don't hit all of them, we're so hard on ourselves. And so many of us don't realize that we're so much more successful than we actually give ourselves credit for or think we are, right? Just because we haven't hit this doesn't mean that we don't have all of these other results of success, And so by celebrating wins regularly, even the small ones, I think it reminds us that, like, hey, just because we're not here yet doesn't mean it's not cool that we got all the way up here. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it.
What kind of because that's really interesting, because it's like re-injecting joy and fun and enthusiasm into a business, because
Totally.
especially with like grind culture and just, getting things done. What kind of impact does it have on an organization to just be like, guys, we just need to celebrate our wins way more. We need to like give ourselves a pat on the back, high fives, chest bump, right? Like we need to do more of that. And actually the literature shows that when organizations do more of that, they're actually far more productive. So why do you feel like maybe people don't do that enough?
Because it is so hard and challenging and we're so ambitious, I think people just get caught in the weeds. And if you don't build a system and stick to it, to regularly identify these things and ask these questions and actually put it down on a Google spreadsheet or Notion or Trello or whatever it is, you won't revisit it. So by building a system like a notification, a calendar, and sticking to it regularly, then you can actually see. But if you don't do that, you don't see your progress, right? You can't measure what you don't improve. We say that all the time, whether you're in the gym, building a business, or whatever. You have to constantly measure things so we can improve it.
You know what's... Sorry, go ahead.
We're all just so like focused on the outcome, and sometimes I think that hurts us because maybe we didn't hit the number or we didn't get as many clients and we don't feel the need to celebrate. But at least for myself, I've been trying to focus more on the journey and the experience and celebrating that and the progress that I'm making rather than the outcome. Of course, the outcome is important to track, but more focus on the wins along the way in terms of how we are improving 1% every day.
I want to throw this at you because I've come across this specifically around the leadership or CEO of an organization implementing some more celebrations. Is some of them, they feel like it's kind of cringe, or it's or it's like they're above that. How wrong are they, and what would you tell them if they're like, oh, it's just kind of a little uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah, I would ask him a question again, right? Would you rather be
Do you love money? Like, let's do it.
would you rather be broke and serious or cheesy and rich? I'll choose cheesy and rich all day long.
It's good.
This is real. Like, I tell my friends, right, the homies, right, from back in the day, I still got my homies. I'll tell them and I'll try to expose them to Tony Robbins and Bedros Cooley and all these amazing personal development people, and they think it's lame. I'm like, that's cool. You could think it's lame. I'm going to be cheesy and make myself the best possible version I can. And if you think that's cheesy, that's cool, because I'm hitting this goal, hitting this goal, hitting this goal, hitting this goal. So you can think I'm cheesy all I want.
That is so cool. All right, I got a question for you, Miss Joner. You want to be serious and average or rich and cheesy? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'll be rich and cheesy all day.
Love it. All right, guys, what is down the pipeline for you? So we're talking about the goals, and what are you guys working on now, and then what's the next big aspirational thing that's coming up for you?
Yeah, we've always built our businesses by the philosophy of trying to do more with less. And so down the pipeline for us is co-hosting in Los Angeles, because Los Angeles has a ton of money. There's billions of dollars of real estate all around us. We have Venice Beach, we have the Hollywood Hills, we have Beverly Hills, there's the Valley. So instead of focusing on operations in the desert and all these cool places that are far away, it's our goal next year to get at minimum 10 co-hosting properties for our co-hosting company that are big, beautiful, amazing houses that are doing 20, 30K a month or more.
And by co-hosting, he means we're managing people's vacation rentals on a shorter midterm basis.
Yeah. So rather than taking on more risk, acquiring more properties, we just want to go on the services-based side of things. We also have out-of-state flips plan. So we're going to be flipping in Georgia, which is pretty cool. We have our LLCs that we're getting set up. We're going to be leveraging a team, boots on the ground team. So it's our job to manage the capital table. And then we're going to leverage this team that's already doing 100, 200 deals a year out there and kind of just plug into their system. And then the last thing is the Systems Academy.
Yeah, we're really working.
Academy.
Yeah, the Systems Academy is a consultancy style training program. It's targeted for real estate investors, but again, it applies to many businesses, where we are not coaches and these are not students. Rather, these are business owners talking to other business owners about improving our systems and building sustainable business. It's an online self-study course, but we have weekly business builder sessions. We have live workshops throughout the year. We have a Facebook community. Still pretty fresh, but this is our way of like giving back to others what we've learned over the last several years from several of our mentors. And it's like a passion project for us. We're really enjoying it.
Wow. That's it? That's all you're working on? Jeez. No, that is awesome. I love what you guys are, not just working on, but you're the, as we like to say, the proof's in the pudding, right? You guys talk about creating the right systems, not just, obviously we talked a ton about business, but obviously at the beginning we talked about relationships and marriage. And when you have the right systems in your personal life, in business life, you guys are such a great example of what that can actually turn into. And I really hope that anybody who's listening to this can understand that even though when you systematize, maybe it sounds boring or robotic, but it actually really just creates more freedom. You made a strong point of focusing on time. And at the end of the day, time's only slipping us by, right? We're not reclaiming it. So it's what can we do to really maximize business, and then most importantly maximize the lives and the relationships in our lives. But guys, this was phenomenal. Really appreciate you joining us. Antonio, anything else you want to finish us off, dude?
Just want to say thank you guys for sharing everything, and just congratulations on your just lovely family and those little young kiddos. And just from parenting to another parent, they're just I'm really happy that they have you guys as parents to teach them and guide them. I think they're going to be very powerful human beings in the not too distant future. So kudos to you.
We think so too. Yeah, that's the
All right.
plan.
Yeah, it is our
It's funny what happens after you become a dad. You become all emotional and
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
You
dude.
know,
Oh,
we appreciate this, and the coolest thing about this is obviously we love real estate. We like business more than anything, right? That's truly what it comes down to. To speak to other gentlemen who understand business like this, it's very refreshing. So let's go out there and be rich and cheesy.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Rich
right.
and cheesy.
Thank
Let's
you
go.
guys so much.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.